from the new Dean Smith Student Activity Center.
And a reminder, everyone, we'll be standing by live here at the Sports Center with updates from around the country on other basketball action. By the way, the students down in North Carolina are calling it the Dean Dome, and we'll see what happens there today in the debut of the new Student Athletic Center. We'll be back in just a moment to set the scene from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. #1 Duke versus #3 Duke.
This portion of the game is being brought to you by Today Chevrolet, who invite you to live the style, performance, and fun of Chevrolet in '86.
#1 North Carolina hosting #3 Duke. North Carolina at 17-0, Duke at 16-0. Duke known for its strong backcourt, and North Carolina known for its very strong and powerful front court. And we'll be going there to Marty Brenneman and Billy Cunningham, who will set the scene for today's thriller. Been called the biggest one so far in college basketball this year. #1 is on the line, and of course it is the Atlantic Coast Conference, and they just love their basketball down there. Looking forward to this one. So now we'll go to Chapel Hill, North Carolina to set the scene.
The biggest game to date in the 1985-86 collegiate basketball season taking place here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina this afternoon. Indeed fitting, because it kicks off the opening of the new Dean Smith Student Activity Center. #1 ranked North Carolina, #3 ranked Duke, without question, the battle for the #1 spot in the national rankings. Good afternoon, everyone. Along with Billy Cunningham, I'm Marty Brenneman, and Bill, just sartorial splendor. That's what it's all about today.
Well, thank you, Marty, but we can't have an overtime today because this suit has to be back by 3:30 this afternoon.
Well, overtime is something that at times has been a byword with these two basketball teams, and something that could very well take place here today. A game with all the media hype surrounding the opening of this building. Everybody knows how important this game is, yet both Dean Smith and Mike Krzyzewski are playing it down, and playing it down big.
Well, they want their teams to come out and play the way they have so far this season. They don't want them to be too emotionally high for this ball game and not perform at the level they're capable of playing at. So I think that's the #1 thing. #2 is these two teams could play 3 more times after this game, and the last one could be the most important. That could be in the Final Four in Dallas, Texas.
Well, the one true factor today that we can tell you right now, there will be over 21,400 here today, probably many more than that. They've been talking about the opening of this building for a long, long time, and as we pointed out, it is indeed fitting that the biggest single game to date in all of collegiate basketball will be played right here at the Dean Smith Student Activity Center this afternoon. Stay with us. Right now, we'll go back to Alan Massengale at the ESPN Sports Center.
Marty and Billy looking quite dapper in their suits this afternoon, getting in the spirit of things down there in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Now, a little bit of college basketball news. More stories from the saga of As the Tito Turns. Tito Horford, the controversial 7'1" center who still has no place to play. He was kicked out of LSU. He was ineligible at Houston. He was rejected at Kentucky, rejected at UCLA. Now he says he would like to play at Baylor, Louisville, or Miami. However, he has already been rejected at Louisville. Coach Denny Crum of Louisville says, we do not need any problems like that. No way. Now, Baylor says they are interested. Now, Horford says he hasn't done anything wrong, and the NCAA has informed him that he can play anywhere except at Houston or in the Southeastern Conference. However, the Houston Chronicle newspaper says that the NCAA has told at least up to 10 schools that if they bring Horford on their campus, they will be due for an investigation. So Horford still no place to go. Some legal maneuvering in the case of Michigan State basketball star Scott Skiles, and Skiles has lost this round in a court case. In his court case, attorneys Friday asked for a change of venue. They wanted a new judge, but authorities in Plymouth, Indiana, are seeking to revoke Skiles' probation on a misdemeanor conviction for marijuana possession on April 1985 conviction. And Skiles got into hot water when he was arrested in November on drunk driving charges, and Skiles is averaging over 22 points a game for Michigan. We'll be right back with more right after this break. Marty Brenneman is ready, Billy Cunningham is ready, and we're ready for ACC basketball at its best from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We'll see you at halftime.
With Billy Cunningham, Marty Brenneman back at the Dean Smith Student Activity Center. I'll tell you one thing, there is not an empty seat in this place, and it is truly one of the fine basketball facilities in all of college basketball, probably, Billy, also encompassing the pros. I don't know that you're going to see a better facility.
Only one of this size I have not seen is Brigham Young. But what I understand that this one is pretty, or as any building there is in the country, and any one that I have seen, there's nothing close to it.
Well, we mentioned at the top a true vision in blue, and Carolina blue it is. All the seats are theater-style seats. The demand for tickets for this game today was nothing short of unbelievable. It might be surprising to some, but I don't think to others. They probably could have sold 10,000 more seats with all the people that wanted to be on hand for history in the making. And to boot, and the icing on the cake, and of course the main attraction is that you've got a shot for the #1 ranking in the country in this battle between 1 and 3, North Carolina and Duke. Both teams are undefeated. Carolina at 17-0, and the Duke Blue Devils at 16 wins and no losses. They have blown them off the floor, and right now we'll go to Stadium Public Address announcer Kearney Andrews for the introduction of today's starting lineup.
Welcome to the Dean Smith Student Activity Center at the Today, ladies and gentlemen, the Tar Heels host the Blue Devils of Duke University. Here are the starters for today's game. At forward for Duke University, number 35, Danny Ferry. At forward for North Carolina, number 54, Warren Martin. For Duke at forward, number 12, David Henderson. And for Carolina, number 24, Joe Wolf. At center for Duke University, number 32, Mark Allery. For North Carolina, number 42, Brad Daugherty. At guard for Duke, number 4, Tommy Amaker. At guard for Carolina, number 30, Kenny Smith.
I can't hear you.
For the Blue Devils at guard, number 24, Johnny Dawkins. And for the Tar Heels, number 25, Steve Hale. The head coach for the Blue Devils is Mike Krzyzewski. The head coach for the Tar Heels is Dean Smith.
Well, there's a look at the officials today coming on the heels of the starting lineups. Paul Hausman, the man in the center. On your left, it's David Dodge. On your right, Paul Hausman. A good officiating crew from the Atlantic Coast Conference. Billy, I've got to ask you the question. Are you surprised that Dean Smith is going with his big lineup? That is starting Warren Martin.
No, I'm not surprised, because I think that Dean Smith feels that he's going to force the issue and see how Henderson's going to respond. I would expect Carolina to look inside even a little bit more than we had anticipated, because Henderson is now going to have to be matched up with Wolf, and he's going to have to give up 5 inches.
And it was interesting, there seemed to be some secrecy involved around what kind of lineup Dean Smith would use. After he informed us, I had a chance to visit with Mike Krzyzewski and ask him what was the real key. What was the thing he was most concerned about? It was interesting to note his comment was Carolina's big lineup.
I expect that Duke to come out and really apply the pressure defensively with this big lineup Carolina has. It'll be interesting how they respond there, if they're able to get the ball, move it in the fashion they'd like to. Both teams will run a motion offense, passing game, moving without the ball, playing very unselfishly. Both teams, very similar, like to play man-to-man defense, a little 2-3 zone, and we will see some trapping defense by Carolina.
That gentleman you see in the wheelchair being brought to center court in this new building is Hargrove Skipper Bowles. He was the chairman of the fundraising committee to build this facility. A tremendous debt of gratitude has been extended to this man from all levels of the administration here at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Skipper Bowles being accompanied by his grandson, Sam Bowles, for a ceremonial first jump ball, and everybody here in this facility standing and applauding the efforts of a man who was so instrumental in raising funds from the private sector to build this building that they are kicking off today in royal fashion. There are the matchups. Ferry, Henderson, Allery up front for Duke. Dawkins and Amaker in the backcourt. Martin, Wolf, Doherty, Hale, and Smith for North Carolina as the Tar Heels go 6-10, 6-11, and 6-11 across that front line. It should be a big, big day of basketball. And we are set to go as Brad Doherty goes head up against Danny Ferry, and the first tip controlled by Johnny Dawkins of Duke. Off to the man who runs the show for the Blue Devils, Tommy Amaker. Kenny Smith has him. Wolf runs at Henderson. It goes low to Allery, and he's going to be fouled from behind by Warren Martin.
Right off the bat, looking to get the ball inside to Allery, establishing that inside game. I think another key matchup we've talked about is Steve Hale against Dawkins. Dawkins had the big game last year, 34 points against Carolina.
Here's Henderson on the drive. The defense shuts him down, and the ball picked off by Martin. Kenny Smith in a hurry. Who will get the first basket in the new building? The rebound to Doherty. Couldn't get it to go down. They battled for the rebound, and official Paul Hausman has a whistle and a foul against Joe Wolf. So very quickly, the Tar Heels have been whistled for 2 fouls, and Duke will inbounds the ball. Or will they? Wait a minute. It looked like Wolf thought he had been charged with a personal when... Yep, it is. That's right. Warren Martin had gone out of bounds to make the trigger pass, but the official said, nope, it belonged to the opponent.
That's the type of foul Dean Smith will not mind, because they're going to have to, with this big lineup, capitalize on that size advantage and pound the offensive boards.
Here's Dawkins taking Hale to the baseline. Now he arrests the dribble, gets it off to the rookie Ferry. Henderson in traffic. It rolls off. Mark Allery with a follow. And Allery, for your trivia buffs, a man who comes up with the first basket in this brand spanking new building, and it gives Duke a 2-0 lead. A whistle in open court, and Tommy Amaker has fouled Kenny Smith.
Another point to watch is Carolina going to come out and struggle early in ball games as they had at Carmichael. They seem to have a problem in the first 10 minutes of ball games before they really get themselves in gear and start playing the way they're capable of playing.
Martin whips it inside to Doherty and right through his hands, and Duke will bring it up. Billy, it's interesting to note, Tuesday night at Maryland, you made the comment, in your opinion, Dean Smith's best lineup was his small lineup, i.e. Steve Hale, Kenny Smith, and Jeff Lebo. Yet he goes with a big lineup here against Duke today.
Well, we're going to see if this is an advantage. Both coaches have so much flexibility, both offensively and defensively.
Shot rejected by Martin, and was able to save it at the end line. Kenny Smith in traffic. Wrap-around dribble. Plays it off to Hale. Quick pass inside Doherty. Curry got a hand on it. Hale tips it to Doherty. Blind pass inside. And a whistle stops play. Was it David Henderson who committed the personal foul? We'll see.
At the other end, we saw Warren Martin rejecting another shot. He leads the Carolina team now with 51 block shots. The whole team has 43, so you see what a factor he is with this ball club.
It is Duke 2, North Carolina nothing. Martin belly up with Danny Ferry, puts it on the floor. The big guy looks for help. He finds it, and Hale stops it. Oh! Wolf mistimed his jump as the ball came high off the back rim, and Duke controls. It goes from Amaker to Dawkins. He beat the defense, didn't get the bucket, but he was fouled. So Johnny Dawkins, an outstanding free throw shooter, will be on the line for a couple.
Here's the move by Dawkins, seeing 2 big men coming at him, and as we've talked about, he just has that great awareness. When he goes up in those situations, you know he's going to get to the foul line at the worst, and the possibility of a 3-point play.
Warren Martin has been charged already with his second personal foul, and Dawkins, who can do a number from that spot on the floor, drills the first one to give Duke a 3-0 lead. 84% shooter from the free throw line. That's 4th best in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Duke by 4. Carolina will bring it up. Tommy Amaker against Kenny Smith. Danny Ferry has Martin. David Henderson defending Joe Wolf. Mark Allery against Brad Doherty. And Johnny Dawkins against Kenny Smith. Martin double team, plays to Doherty. He looks cross court and goes to Smith. Inside to
excellent ball movement. Kenny Smith finding Martin wide open underneath.
4-2, Warren Martin, the first field goal for his team in the Dean Smith Student Activity Center. Duke had inbounded the ball, but a whistle stopped play, and they'll do it all over again.
both of these teams have such patience at the offensive end of the court, but I expect this to be a very high-scoring game once both teams get in gear.
Well, we've got 17:40 on the clock. Dawkins to the land of the Giants, and what a move. He went underneath, hit the reverse layup, and Duke again leads by 4.
I'd hate to have that assignment, having to chase Johnny Dawkins around this court.
Up top to Martin. Ran into heavy trouble, but still muscles it up and in. This is the second game back for Warren Martin after missing 3, suffering a broken finger and undergoing surgery. He returned against Maryland and came up with some key points down the stretch, and the Tar Heels come from behind one on Tuesday night. Doherty got a great pass, and it's time. North Carolina 6 and Duke 6. Dawkins front court for the men of Mike Krzyzewski.
Is Carolina trapping?
Mallory, a fine shooter. Didn't get the roll. Wolf gets a rebound, had it knocked away, and a foul against freshman Danny Ferry.
I expect this to be a game of streaks. One team getting hot, running off 8 points. Both teams have such great poise. If you have a 16-0 record or a 17-0 record, you're not an intimidated team. And last year was very strange. You had Duke coming into Carolina, beating them here, and then Carolina going across the street, which is only 8 miles down the road, and being able to beat Duke at home.
Dean Smith, 3 minutes plus into the game, makes his first substitution as freshman Steve Lebo comes in the lineup. And right now, Carolina going with a small lineup. The 3 guards in effect, and Kenny Smith and Jeff Lebo, Steve Hale joining Wolf and Doherty. Lebo handles, plays to Smith. He got the pass low to Doherty. He shoots over Ferry, too strong. Mallory clears it out for Duke, and here comes Dawkins. North Carolina, Duke tied at 6. Dawkins tries to untie it. He throws up a brick, and that's a rarity for Johnny Dawkins. Kenny Smith trying to go coast to coast, and Tommy Amaker picks him clean.
But just to tell you how quick Tommy Amaker is, I know Kenny Smith has run 100 meters in 10-1, so you can imagine the speed that's out on that court. Now here's Kenny Smith pushing the ball. Tommy Amaker coming from the backside, just making a great defensive play, but stepped out of bounds.
North Carolina keeps it. Jeff Wolf, Brad Doherty straight away at the top of the key. Now Kenny Smith looks inside for Wolf. He's bumped pretty well by Ferry. No whistle. Lebo, he was sensational against Maryland. It goes inside Wolf. Carolina leading Duke 8-6.
I've been impressed so far the way Carolina has showed that patience to get it inside to their big people.
Joe Wolf rapidly on the men from hyper-extended fingers on both hands. Dean Smith was telling us before the game, the one thing he can do today that he couldn't do against Maryland is dribble with his right hand. And Dawkins banks one in from 16 to get his club even at 8.
Well, that was the case where they just ran Dawkins off a double screen, and he came back up the lane for the open jump shot.
Johnny Dawkins has scored 6 of Duke's 8 points. The ball thrown away. Wolf saves it at the midline. Kenny Smith, Steve Hale, wide open Lebo. He picks up where he left off against the Terrapin.
I think that's 10 in a row for him, or 10 out of 11 since the Maryland game.
North Carolina again by 2 at 10-8 for the Tar Heels. Dave Popson for the Blue Devils, Jay Billis and Billy King. Substitutions in a moment. David Henderson double team by Lebo and Hale, and one of those 2 commits a foul. Curtis Hunter, Dave Popson for North Carolina, Jay Billis, Billy King, and, well, we've got a timeout on the floor. We're live at the Student Activities Center in Chapel Hill with a score, Tar Heels 10, Blue Devils 8. And we'll be back after this from Natural. For this game are approved and selected by Raycom Sports, Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, duplication, or reception of this broadcast without the express written permission of Raycom Sports, Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions is prohibited. 15 minutes, 2 seconds. Time remaining first half. North Carolina leads Duke by a field goal, 10-8. And a number of substitutions made for both teams. Billy King, Jay Billis. Billis is open inside. He puts it up. Contact made. Who got him? If Martin did, that's going to be the 3rd against Warren Martin. Let's see how Paul Hausman calls it, as Dean Smith indicates he felt there was a traveling violation that should have been called inside against Jay Billis.
The key to that play was the pass made by Amaker. Billis going up strong, had that good baseline position. Very difficult to do anything defensively when you have that man in that position.
Jay Bilas, 6'8" senior out of Rolling Hills, California, a starter for the first 3 years of his career at Duke University, but this season he has become Mike Krzyzewski's sixth man. It has taken some adjustment on his part, but he's been playing much better in that role of late, and he contributes in a hurry to get the game even. North Carolina and Duke at 10 apiece. Martin looking, still, now plays to Hale. There's Curtis Hunter, lone on the baseline, at least for the moment, and Lebo got the ball, immediately foul, and that is number 2 against Tommy Amaker, so keep that in mind.
When you play against a Duke or a Carolina defensively, at no time can you relax because there's constant movement. You must be in good defensive position between the ball and your man. If you're not, you're going to pick up a foul like Tommy Amaker did at that point, and they cannot afford him to pick up the third early in this game.
Lebo, there's a steal. Dawkins cutting in front of Hale, and he takes it all away. 8 points for Johnny Dawkins, who has had some big games against North Carolina in the past, and he is on a roll at the outset today. 14-19 to go in the half. Duke has regained the lead by 2, 12-10. Dave Popson, Steve Hale, Jeff Lebo. Lebo head faking on Amaker, puts up the jump shot. A little bit strong, and is it going to be Hunter on the foul? It will be. Already 5 team fouls against North Carolina as Joe Wolf and Brad Doherty return for the home team, replacing Warren Martin and Dave Popson.
Excuse me. What I'm going to say is Johnny Dawkins is now going into the backcourt, and it'll be interesting how Kenny Smith is able to match up against him at the defensive end.
That is 16 fouls, not 5 against North Carolina. Over-the-top pass intended for Allery, and Kenny Smith getting some weak side help and deflecting the ball out of bounds. There's a foul situation. Tar Heels with 6, the Blue Devils with 4. Allery kicks it inside. Hunter got a hand on it. It was intended for Bilas inside. So both teams continue, as they have done all season long, to look for the open man and get the easy basket. Behind a double screen, it's Dawkins. Lebo fights through it to pick him up. Billy King double teamed by Lebo and Hunter. There's Allery.
Excellent ball movement by Duke, finding the open men.
Second time the Blue Devils have had a 4-point lead. They're up 14-10. Joe Wolf plays to Doherty. Kenny Smith had a step on Dawkins, but Doherty didn't chance a pass. Instead, he goes to Wolf for the turnaround that rolls off the iron, and there's Henderson climbing the ladder. So Duke looks to extend its lead to a half a dozen. Dawkins is a man with a hot hand as he spins around, loops it low to Allery. Bad pass, tipped by Doherty, picked up by Wolf. And it's Hunter, and he's fouled, and Dawkins got him his first.
Excellent lead pass by Brad Doherty, finding his teammate the other end of the court. Here's Brad coming from the weak side, giving the help. Joe Wolf making that long outlet pass. The key there was he knew the speed of his teammate and was able to lead him perfectly.
Well, Curtis Hunter, the 6'5" junior out of Durham, North Carolina, goes to the free throw line for a couple. I'd like to take this opportunity to say hello today to one of the ACC's biggest basketball fans, the son of Admiral Zumwalt. He's been ill recently, and everyone connected with our network, the University of North Carolina and Duke University, certainly want to wish him the very, very best.
So far, we've seen both teams feeling each other out for the first 7 minutes of this ball game. Carolina looking to show the traps, seeing how the Duke team will respond. Now, Duke has had the opportunity to see that Carolina is looking to go inside as much as they can when they get to the offensive set. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two teams settle down and get themselves going.
Dean Smith with a grin on his face as he replaces Curtis Hunter with freshman Kevin Madden. And it's 14-12. Allery saves it at the sideline. Billy King outside and out of traffic to Johnny Dawkins. Duke by 2. Just under 13 to go in the half. Allery with a jump hook. And the tip up and in by Billy King. He's been playing very well, Billy, of late for Duke.
You can just see him growing and growing with confidence every time he steps on the court. He's looking for his offensive moves now. Reminds me a great deal physically to Dudley Bradley, who played here in Carolina.
16-12. Bad pass by Wolf. Intercepted by Henderson.
That was the pressure defense.
Henderson puts up the jump shot. No good. There's King again.
Well, someone did not match up for Carolina, and he was able to get inside and get the easy tip.
Billy King with 2 quick baskets, and Duke now leads it 18-12. Wolf plays to Lebo. He's open for the jump shot. And he got the roll to get his team to within 4 at 18-14. Second field goal for Lebo. He had a string of 10 in a row before missing on his last shot, but comes back to knock this one in.
Good pressure defensively. Looking to trap again, Carolina.
Sailing into the corner. He takes it inside, kicks it back to Billis from 17. Rebounded by Wolf. And knocked out of bounds by Billis as Carolina tried to start the fast break with that quick outlet pass.
You see Allery and Wolf just beating on each other in there for that offensive or defensive rebound. Wolf was able to come out with it.
Kevin Madden has left. Steve Hale has returned for North Carolina, and we've got a timeout. 11 minutes and 46 seconds remaining in half number 1. The biggest game to date, and North Carolina trails Duke 18-14.
Kenny Smith in the backcourt, and we'll watch Carolina. Lebo coming up to trap Dawkins. He's able to swing the ball across the court. Allery makes a great play, saving the basketball into King. And they were able to attack the trap. I'm sure that Coach K would like to see Dawkins a little more under control when he tries to swing the ball against the trap.
We're back at it again. Brad Daugherty with a turnaround bank shot, too strong. Danny Ferry with nice position inside on Joe Wolf. Duke in front 18-14.
So far, Duke has been able to do a good job inside against Brad Daugherty.
Lebo got a hand on it. Lebo with a steal. Amaker runs to pick him up, and he got it.
That's just excellent anticipation. Reading the man stepping out for the ball. Lebo was able to step in the passing lane.
18-16. North Carolina with 4 unanswered points. Henderson bounce feeding to Billis. Gets it right back. Almost had it batted away, and traveling violation against David Henderson. Mike Krzyzewski stands up and said, hey, I didn't see it.
I've been surprised that Carolina has come out and looked to trap so much at the on the half-court bases. Of course, they'll always trap when the ball goes down the sideline, but a little bit more than I thought.
How about that note? The largest audience for a basketball game in the state of North Carolina, I would imagine. 18-16. Jeff Lebo swings it back outside to Steve Hale. Inside to Daugherty. Bounces in. A bank shot is up and good. The second field goal by the senior All-American candidate from Black Mountain, North Carolina. And the Tar Heels have come back to tie it up. Duke with 5 turnovers. They have led to 6 North Carolina points.
I think Duke's going to have to find a way to get Henderson involved.
Well, he gets himself involved right there and drills it in. Simultaneous with the basket, a whistle sounds, and they're going to call an offensive foul, I believe, on Billy King for throwing an elbow as that ball was in the air. Credit the field goal to Henderson and charge King with his first personal. For Duke, 16 fouls, and the Blue Devils lead by 2 at 20-18. North Carolina going with Daugherty, Smith, Hale, that man, Jeff Lebo, along with Joe Wolf. Duke counters with Danny Ferry, Mark Allery, and David Henderson up front. In the backcourt, Johnny Dawkins and Tommy Amaker. Lebo baseline, tried to turn the corner, got off the shot, a little strong. How about Allery's jumping ability? He was above iron for the rebound.
More importantly, he had the good position for the rebound.
Whistle off the ball as Allery and Wolf, and Billy, you made the point a moment ago. They are really banging and knocking inside. Mark Allery and Joe Wolf, and they spot Wolf for the infraction.
You know, these two teams are fighting for the #1 spot, and on Monday, one of them will have that position. So they're not going to back down. They're just going to go out there and play as hard as they possibly can. It should be a physical game underneath, but a clean game at the same time.
Both teams in the bonus for the final 9:55 of the half. Mark Allery with his 5th point. He's really been on a roll of late. ACC Player of the Week this week. He's had 20 or more points in 3 out of his last 4 games. And Duke remains perfect at the free throw line. The Blue Devils are 6 out of 6. 22-18. Henderson tried to steal a pass from Hale, couldn't get it. Lebo finds Daugherty. He forces a pass inside that Wolf is able to save, and they're going to call an offensive foul on Joe Wolf. He leaned into the defender to get position underneath for the shot.
Joe Wolf cannot get control of the ball, and he has himself positioned underneath the basket. Now he's trying to jump back to get that position for the shot, and has to jump into Dan Ferry.
And he's also put himself in a rough spot, because that's a 3rd foul against Wolf. He goes to the bench, and Warren Martin, who got 2 quick ones at the outset of this game, has come back.
Dean Smith now has switched his defensive assignments. Kenny Smith is on Dawkins, and Hale is playing Henderson.
Doherty breaks through the screen, but Allery was able to get it off. Kenny Smith with a rebound. He's on the move. Two great ones right there. Dawkins and Smith, and Kenny has it taken away. Dawkins ahead of the field. His second slam of the afternoon.
Duke has done a great job converting turnovers to easy baskets at the other end, and it always seems like Dawkins is the one doing it.
I guess he has scored 10 points, 10 of Duke's 24, and they lead by 6. Hale found Delano. He shovels it up and in, and a foul on Danny Ferry.
Now, Steve Hale has not practiced since the Maryland game. He ran into Derek Lewis and had some problems with his chest. Here's the overplay by Henderson, misses the steal. Steve Hale penetrating. He's left-handed. Now he's using that right hand, and you see that more and more of outstanding players now in college as well as the pros.
A chance to complete the three-point play for Steve Hale. Kevin Madden checks back for North Carolina. Jeff Lebo sits down, and Hale, who pretty much is automatic from that free throw line, drills it in. Here comes Duke. There's Allery beating the defense.
That was poor communication between Madden and Doherty getting back, and Duke saw that and were able to find the open man for the layup.
Ball goes inside to Warren Martin, and Danny Ferry picks up another personal foul. That's the third on Ferry.
Here's the good pass inside by Madden to Martin, and they call the foul on Ferry looking to get around in front.
Problems for both coaches, Dean Smith and Mike Krzyzewski. Number 3 on Danny Ferry. And now the young head coach of the Blue Devils has to make a decision. Do you leave him in, or do you bring him down and put Jay Billis back in the lineup? No movement as yet by Krzyzewski, who works the officials just a bit.
Well, last year, without having a Ferry and just the Billis in there, Coach Krzyzewski would have had to do something, but now he has that backup inside, that strength, so he can allow this player to continue to play.
Warren Martin throws in his 5th point. It is 26-22 in favor of the Duke Blue Devils. 8 minutes, 53 seconds to go here in the first half. Carolina pulls to within 3. They apply some backcourt pressure. Ferry inbounding the ball to Amaker. Doherty now matched up against Mark Allery. Martin has Ferry. Hale against Dawkins. Tommy Amaker open. He fires a jump shot. It will not go. And there's Doherty clearing it off for the Tar Heels. North Carolina bidding to close the deficit to 1. They go up top to Martin. He cannot ring the bell. He battles to maintain possession, but Dawkins is a man of the hour for Duke. He splits Madden and Martin and now backs off on the dribble. Amaker handles, and Billis will return in a moment.
Just a good decision that time by Dawkins. Duke was outnumbered at the defensive end of the court.
They go inside. That's an offensive foul. Offensive foul against Mark Allery. He really dealt Brad Doherty.
There's a good pass by Dawkins inside. Allery, you know why that foul was committed? Because he did not have any contact with Doherty, so he wasn't sure where he was on the court after he caught the basketball. All pivot men, when they're in the post-up position, love to have that contact with the defensive man. Then they know which direction to go with the basketball.
Both Duke and North Carolina have now turned the ball over 6 times. There is Martin getting open, and the shot rejected by Allery. Warren Martin, for an instant, was wide open. He had to be thinking about 2 points with relative ease, but great defense by Allery. And he jump hooks at the other end. Hale gets a long rebound. Billy King stalking him. Steele breaks the dribble, and he's fouled. King got him.
That's 3 fouls on Tommy Amaker. Now, that was not a good foul by Tommy Amaker. A smart play. Now, here's King coming back, giving the help. Tommy Amaker looking to step in, picks up the chief foul, his 3rd, and Coach K has just picked up a technical foul.
So number 3 indeed against Tommy Amaker. That incurs the ire of one Mike Krzyzewski to the extent that he has been hit with a technical foul. Steve Hale 1 for 1 from the line, and I think you can tell that the head man for the Blue Devils is anything but pleased.
This could put Carolina back into the lead after they get finished with shooting the foul shots.
Well, the separation now stands at 2, 26-24, 26-25, and North Carolina will keep the ball. Amaker with 3 for the Duke Blue Devils. Danny Ferry with 3. And, of course, a foul. And now Hale will get the 1-and-1.
What this means to Duke is Dawkins will have to go to the lead guard position. Not only is he going to have to change his whole thinking, he's the one that's got to be dishing the ball out, making sure the ball is moving, getting everyone involved offensively. And the way he was going at the offensive end of the court, this could change the game a little bit for the Duke Blue Devils.
Billy, this was a 4-point swing already, and it could develop into a 6-point swing. Will it? We'll find out shortly. Right now, they stop play on the floor. 7 minutes, 39 seconds to go in the first half. It is a good one. North Carolina leads Duke 27-26. Point game at the new Dean Smith Student Activity Center in Chapel Hill. The Tar Heels taking advantage of a technical foul against Duke's head coach Mike Krzyzewski, coming on the heels of Tommy Amaker's 3rd foul versus Steve Hale. The Tar Heels have taken advantage of it with 4 straight hits from the line for Hale, and now they get the ball, Billy.
I would expect that Carolina will look to go to trapping defense even a little bit more than they have so far to get the ball out of Johnny Dawkins' hands.
That last graphic reflected something Billy mentioned earlier this afternoon. The home court advantage was nil last year. The Tar Heels winning in Durham, the Blue Devils winning in Chapel Hill. And right now it's North Carolina by a point. Here's Madden off the baseline. Kevin Madden, the freshman of Stanton, Virginia, and Robert E. Lee High School. North Carolina by 3 at 29-26.
If Carolina's going to reach the level they'd like to, I think Madden is going to be a big factor for this ball club.
He's all over Billy King. David Henderson on the stop-and-go dribble to the baseline. Pulls up, misses. There's Doherty. Hands above everybody for the rebound. The pass goes to Hale. He got King airborne. And how about that shot? What a great body control by Steve Hale. Mercy.
My goodness. He's probably the most surprised person in this building when he saw the ball go in the basket. King makes the bad decision to go for the shot. Should have just kept a good defensive position. Possible 3-point play for Carolina.
Hey, Billy, Duke is getting into serious foul trouble. That is the 3rd foul against Billy King. He joins Danny Ferry and Tommy Amaker. Hale misses long with the long rebound. Ball tipped by Doherty. Back to Hale. They play it to Doherty. North Carolina has come roaring back, and that 7-point lead, 33-26, represents the biggest of the game for either team.
As I said, I think it's going to be a game of spurts like this. This Duke team will come back, though.
Madden kicked it over the end line.
Now, this is where an experienced team like a Duke will be able to have the patience, get the good shot, play with the poise. You know, these guys have played together for many, many years.
Johnny Dawkins way into the corner to David Henderson. He backs off against Martin. Gives it to Dawkins on the other side. And who has it? Martin with his arms around Henderson. And you can chalk number 3 up against the big guy from Axton, Virginia. 3 on Martin.
Warren Martin did not realize that Henderson was going to get that running start to go for the basket, and he just has that explosive jumping ability and was able to get control of the ball and pick up the foul.
Danny Ferry is going to give Mark Allery a breather. And ditto as Dave Hobson replaces foul-prone Warren Martin.
Right now for Duke, offensively, they're going to have to start creating some things at the defensive end of the court with the defensive pressure. Because now that Allery is out of the game, Amaker is out there, a lot of pressure on Henderson and Dawkins to carry this team offensively.
Henderson, an 80.4% free throw shooter, just throws in his 3rd point. It is 33-27, North Carolina. Still better than 6 minutes remaining in the first half. And there's Popson. Kenny Smith left over. The tip-up fails by Popson. Doherty follows. No good. Bodies are down, and a hell ball, and the arrow pointing in North Carolina's or Duke's direction. It'll be Duke ball.
These kids are really going after that ball when it hits the glass. Both teams.
Jeff Lebo will try to get in, and will. He's going to replace Kevin Madden. No, it's going to be Tar Heels ball. into heavy traffic. There's Doherty. He banks it in with ease. 8 points for Brad Doherty. He's the #1 scorer on this North Carolina basketball team, averaging an even 20, and the Heels lead 35-27.
Here comes the trap again.
There's Danny Ferry, puts it on the floor, puts up the jump shot. It hangs, it fails to go. Jay Billis battling inside, and boy, that's pretty good effort.
As I mentioned the last time down the court, it's not a matter of 1 or 2 players going after the ball. You have 6 players in most cases just pounding that offensive defensive boards.
35-29, North Carolina. And Duke has gone to his own defense. That is something Mike Krzyzewski will not do very often, but at the moment, I guess he's got a whole lot of choice. He's got some people in foul trouble. Lebo tries to bust that zone open, but couldn't do it.
And that's exactly right, Marty. With the foul trouble they have, they just feel that they must go into the 2-3 zone, which both teams do not like to play. They like to be aggressive and go out there and play a good, solid man-to-man.
Billy King wants to get closer, but Lebo shut him off. Henderson, long rebound to Billis. He'll take it back up and follow the slam by Henderson. David Dodge, their official, says no basket. He's going to call an offensive foul against Henderson, and they'll go the other way.
No, they're going to call, I think it's offensive goaltending, Marty, and it appeared to be an excellent call by the official. Is Billis for the shot. Look at Henderson coming. Looked like the ball was still over the cylinder.
So offensive goaltending, no foul against Henderson. The Tar Heels operate with just under 5 minutes remaining.
Duke has got to find somebody. Allery's back in the ball game because they're living by the perimeter.
There's Thompson. Line drive jump hook. Thompson scores for the first time. North Carolina leads by 8, 37-29. Keeps it for the Blue Devils.
I am so impressed. I've had the opportunity to watch him play his last 3 games, and he is such a consistent basketball player. Coach K must feel so confident when he has him on the court because he can either score, create things at the defensive end of the court. Truly one of your outstanding players in the country today.
How about Lebo missing from the corner? Ferry rebounds. Dawkins has scored 12. He's the top scorer in the game. And he looks for numbers 13 and 14 and rings the bell again. So Johnny Dawkins is bringing the Blue Devils back. They were down by 8. They are now trailing by 4, 37-33.
Well, Carolina has got to have a little more patience with the zone.
Steve Hale knocks it home.
As I said, a lot more patience. Steve Hale just buried that open jump shot.
Hale has scored 11 for the Tar Heels. 39-33 North Carolina. Henderson. Baseline Billis, couldn't get it to go. There's Hale. He fell over Billis, but got it up the court to Smith. To Lebo. Trying to go. Danny Ferry there for the Blue Devils. Mid-court pass to Mark Allery.
Dawkins got back that time. Forced Lebo to try and attempt a tough shot and did not commit the foul. Just a great defensive play.
There's Allery. He has his ball stripped by Hale. 2-on-1 break. Dawkins back for Duke. It goes back to Hale.
Steve Hale is the type of player, in most cases doesn't end up with the points, but he's the type where you cannot look at his stat sheet and evaluate how he has contributed to his team's success.
He is without question a big game player for North Carolina, and he's having one today. Henderson for Duke. 41-35. Well, Billy, we anticipated a high-scoring game, and it looks like we're going to get one.
Oh, yeah. This game could get to the hundreds, but you saw a team just swing the basketball to the weak side. That's where a trapping team is vulnerable, on the weak side.
Baseline to Brad Doherty, and what does Paul Hausman have?
3 seconds on Dave Popson.
And we also have substitutions, Warren Martin and Kevin Madden for North Carolina, with Dave Popson and Brad Doherty sitting down, and Danny Ferry leaving for Duke. Weldon Williams coming in.
With the problems foul-wise, Coach Krzyzewski really does not have the flexibility that he thought he'd have coming into this basketball game. With Tommy Amaker sitting on that bench, and Ferry does not give him a lot of flexibility, whereas Carolina still has that flexibility, rotating the people the way they'd like to. And I believe that at the end of this ball game, the bench should be the factor in who wins and loses.
Well, after today, there will be only one unbeaten team in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and you can tell by those numbers that it has been a very, very physical first half. Allery shooting. scored 9 points. It is 41-36 North Carolina.
They're going to need him to be more of a factor in the inside part of his game.
2 successes by Allery and a timeout. 27 to go. It's close. The Tar Heels over the Blue Devils, 41-37. As you take a look at some of the massive crowd here at the Student Activity Center, lead the Duke Blue Devils, 41-37, 2:20 on the clock, and it's Tar Heels basketball.
A lot of changes by Carolina in that lineup. First time this year that I've seen Madden and Hunter in the game together.
Ranzino Smith is also in, and he just overran the ball, and Weldon Williams picked it up.
So now Carolina has a small, quick lineup in there.
Ranzino Smith, Jeff Lebo, Curtis Hunter, Kevin Madden, and the big guy, Brad Daugherty. And Duke has very little problem with him. They get the ball to Allery on the baseline, and he takes care of the rest.
As I said, they need Allery's offensive punch on the inside to give them that balance inside as well as outside.
He has 12. The ball tipped into the hands of Lebo. He throws up a prayer, and it was answered by way of a foul.
Well, Lebo was fortunate that deflected pass fell right into his hands and was able to draw the foul.
Kenny Smith visiting with official Dave Dodge as he comes from the scorer's table to replace Ranzino Smith, followed closely by junior Dave Popson for Curtis Hunter. And Lebo will go to the free throw line. He has come off the bench to score 6 today, all from the field.
Yeah, Marty, you sit here. Here's Duke has got 2 of their starters sitting on the bench for several minutes now in foul trouble, only down at the most 3 points at this time with 1:41 left in the half. You have to feel pretty good if you're over there, if you're Coach Krzyzewski.
Well, you have to. You've got Danny Ferry sitting down. He has 3 fouls. Likewise, Tommy Amaker, Billy King on the bench with 2 personal fouls. And North Carolina can't take advantage of it. Lebo has 7. Tar Heels lead by 3. 42-39. 1:40 on the clock. Johnny Dawkins in no hurry. Try to trap. He gets him all in the open man. Weldon Williams, or rather Kevin Strickland. Now Allery. And now Billy King with a lane left open. He drives and banks it in. He has been a real shot in the arm today.
And all he's going to do is get better and better. He is going to be an outstanding player for Duke by the time they get to March.
So a pretty good lead for the Tar Heels has dwindled down to a scant 1.
As I said, it's going to be a game of streaks.
Kenny Smith, Kevin Madden is good. Nope, a little bit short. Popson had it, lost it. Daugherty pitched it to loose ball. A 10-point half for the All-American Brad Daugherty. 44-41 Tar Heels.
Loose balls can just mean the outcome of this ball game. Looking to...
Dawkins misses, and there's Popson. He looks and finds Mr. Smith. Lebo loops it in. Daugherty banks. No, but a follow on a slam by Kevin Madden. Billy, he can get up.
He's quite an athlete. If he is able to maintain his concentration at the defensive end of the court, he will be a factor for this Carolina team before the end of the year.
46-41. There's Kevin Strickland. They leave him open. He takes a long jump shot and gets nothing but core.
If you're sitting over there, Dean Smith's got to say, hey, we'll let them hit that shot. But we know that, speaking to Coach K, they feel this kid Strickland has the ability to do that.
Followed by Kenny Smith that just beat the buzzer. North Carolina gets that final basket to 48-43. North Carolina with Billy Cunningham. Marty Brenneman back at the Dean Smith Student Activity Center. Bill, halftime stats. Well, I guess you could say both clubs are in foul trouble. That is one of the imposing figures surrounding the first half of play.
You really can't see anything statistically that gives Carolina that 5-point lead, except maybe the technical foul that Coach K picked up during the course of the game. And I think that, you know, in a game like this, the officials have to have a lot of patience with the coaches, because the coaches might be more emotionally involved in the game even than the players.
Right.
So I think that they have to just take a deep breath and maybe listen to some things they normally might not listen to from a coach. Things that I'll be interested to start the second half. How Carolina is going to come out and start with their lineup to start the second half. Is Duke going to come out and put more defensive pressure, because they allowed Carolina, I thought, to get the ball inside to their big people very well. And you can see Carolina has worked on moving the basketball after their game against Maryland.
Well, Dean Smith has made one change from the lineup that opened the game. Warren Martin not starting the second half. Jeff Lebo is. But Martin, one of those players with 3 personal fouls. Here's a steal by Hale. He tries to get the first 2 for the second half, and he does. Tommy Amaker really could do very, very little in lieu of the fact he's playing with 3 fouls himself.
Well, that's Steve Hale's 15th point, and he's just playing an outstanding basketball game. Just, again, great anticipation and court awareness defensively.
Open inside, David Henderson. He got to that hoop and put it in before Brad Daugherty got to him.
Well, that time Steve tried to anticipate a little too much. Henderson went back door for the easy layup.
50-45. Both teams have scored here at the outset of the second half of basketball. Lebo gets a pass from Daugherty. There's Hale, and he beat Henderson and got the lay-in.
What do they say? Do unto others?
Yes.
One beat the other one at the other end. He comes back and gets the good back door.
17 for Steve Hale, the high point man for both teams. Inside to Allery, and a great rejection by Daugherty. Out of bounds, Tar Heel ball. Mike Krzyzewski feeling like Allery was fouled, and so does his player.
Well, it was tough to tell, but he made that move to the basket. It looked like there was a chance of a lot of contact inside.
North Carolina by 7, has the ball. Here's a jump shot by Kenny Smith. Long rebound to Allery of Duke. He puts it in the hands of Dawkins. The jump shot by Henderson. The rebound by Hale. He lost it. He got it back, and a hell ball as Danny Ferry very wisely hit the deck to tie up Hale. The arrow pointing in the direction of North Carolina.
I think Danny Ferry is, we know he's a freshman. He's got to think a little bit more at the offensive end of the court, because he's just not looking at the basket at all.
Boy, did you see Mike Krzyzewski working on Tom Frame. He didn't get any satisfaction there. He went to one knee and started working on David Dodd.
Let me tell you one thing. As a coach, you never get enough satisfaction yelling at the officials.
Daugherty finds Hale again. Twice now, Billy. He's beaten Henderson on that same play.
Well, Carolina knows that they're going to come out and look to deny. They've cleared out the whole weak side where the player overplaying can't get that help, which Duke loves to do and does a great job of it.
Here's Popson, our Lebo up ahead to Kenny Smith. And that's an intentional foul. So if they go with the way the rule is written, Kenny Smith should get 2 shots and Carolina should get the ball.
That's what I would think, because here's Allery coming in and just grabbing him. Really doesn't have a good chance to go for the basketball.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what the call is. Exactly 18 minutes to go. North Carolina cranking it up in front of Duke by 9, and we'll be back. Tar Heels have outscored Duke 6-2 in the first 2 minutes of the second half, and now have the biggest lead enjoyed by either club all afternoon. 54-45, and aiming to extend it with Kenny Smith on the free line.
Now the official ruled that that was not an intentional foul.
So, if it's not, I've never seen one.
Well, yeah. Again, I'm losing something here with the interpretation by the officials. You know, I had a game earlier this year where I thought there wasn't an intentional foul, and they called one. And I think it's a little confusing, possibly the coaches as well.
Johnny Dawkins, nice dish off to Allery, and good defense. Hale knocked it away. Lebo, Ferry got it back, and the ball goes to Danny Ferry as he comes up with another big play, and out of bounds on the dribble. It really looked like Ferry threw an elbow into the midsection of Jeff Lebo. He went down, no foul, but North Carolina gets the ball. 56-45, the Tar Heels in front. Joe Wolf plays to Lebo, spinning away from Dawkins. Gives it back to Kenny Smith behind a Daugherty kick. He's short. Daugherty with a foul. Got it.
Duke's got to get themselves going at the defensive end of the court. They have to look to create some turnovers, pick up the intensity at the defensive end of the court, because they're just allowing Carolina to run their set offense too easily.
58-45, Allery stops and pops over Daugherty and knocks it in. That's 14 for Allery. Amaker all over Smith, who finally gets free and gets the ball. A couple of substitutions will be eminent for Duke. One, Jay Billis, the other, Billy King. Krzyzewski trying to find something that's going to work, and Hale does it again.
Now, it is not the fault of the man coming out and denying Hale the basketball. Number one, the man playing the ball has got to put more defensive pressure to make that a tougher pass.
Here's Henderson. Is that an offensive foul? It is.
That's only the second charge this Duke team has committed this year.
Both of them have come in this game.
That's right. Now here's a good strong move by Henderson. Going to the boards, a little out of control. There's a good call by the official. Lebo established that good weak side help. And again, I want to emphasize, Carolina defensively forces you to go baseline and try to attempt taking the ball to the basket.
They want to re-emphasize what Billy said a moment ago. Duke has been called for 2 charging fouls today. The first charges that have been assessed against them the entire season. You didn't hear wrong. That's a fact. Blue Devils have turned the ball over 12 times, leading to 16 North Carolina points. Kenny Smith started up. Somebody knocked it away, and here comes Tommy Amaker. Johnny Dawkins makes a move on Hale. Kicks it off to Amaker outside. 16 minutes to go, and Duke finds itself down by 13, 60-47. Dawkins with a head fake, now lets it fly. Lebo tried to slap it away from King, but couldn't do it.
Lebo's got his hands full to try and keep Billy King off the offensive boards. That was a tough shot that last time by Dawkins.
Here's Amaker shooting. Kenny Smith got him. And Tommy Amaker on the seat of his pants will shoot 2.
Well, Tommy has not been involved offensively. I think a couple of reasons. Number one, Duke has not been able to get out and run or create the turnovers where he is so good as a basketball player, finding the open man and getting either the good shot or the good layup at the other end of the court. And I think he's going to have to look to get a little more offensive-minded for this ball club. But again, I want to emphasize for Duke to get themselves back in this basketball game now, and we know we have plenty of time. 15:39 left in this half. They've got to do it with their pressure defense.
Well, the guard scoring has been a major factor in this North Carolina 13-point lead. They've gotten 32 points out of their guards in this game to 16 for Duke. You saw the substitution. Kevin Madden has come in for North Carolina. Kenny Smith sits down, and Tommy Amaker tries to make it 1 for 2. 60-48 Tar Heels. Barney looks and finds Steve Hale. Constant movement in this Tar Heel defense. Doherty inside man. High back shot, and what a nice touch off the glass.
That was a tough shot. It was excellent ball movement when Duke went for the steal. Now that's not the type of defense Coach K wants them to have.
Gallery in and out. Billy King. Nope, it's Joe Wolf.
Quick
Everything
shot.
going North Carolina's way at the moment. Hale, here's Madden. Runs into heavy traffic. To Doherty. What a pass.
That's just a great pass. You can hear Doherty yell to Madden that he was wide open.
Well, that's enough for Mike Krzyzewski. He stands up and gives that old T sign. We're live at the Student Activity Center with a score, North Carolina 64 and the Duke Blue Devils 48, and a wild one here at the Student Activity Center. North Carolina up by 16 big ones over Duke with a second more than 15 to go in the game. A lot of time remaining. As Billy Cunningham mentioned in the first half, he expected it to be a game of spurts. It has indeed been that. And right now, the Tar Heels are spurting up a storm. Tommy Amaker over the top to Johnny Dawkins, and he climbed the ladder and dropped it in.
Very rarely do you see a lob pass thrown to a guard that's about 6'2", and just a great play and a great pass.
He has 16, Dawkins does, but at the moment not getting a whole lot of help from anybody else. In trouble, and the pass intercepted by Billy King. He'll take it in on Lebo. Missed it. Amaker follows and hits it. So 4 quick points by Duke.
As we said, that's the way Duke has got to get back into the game, and it's at the defensive end of the court. Now here's a chance for them to have a 6-point run.
Johnny Dawkins ball hawking and comes up with it. Tommy Amaker throws it inside, and Brad Doherty.
He just wasn't ready for the pass from Tommy Amaker.
Jeff Lebo looping pass to Joe Wolf, and they'll call Wolf for an offensive foul, and that is his 4th. Danny Ferry has come back for the Duke Blue Devils, replacing Mark Gallery, but a concern for Dean Smith, as Joe Wolf is now forced out with 14:02 remaining, to be replaced by Warren Martin, he with 3 personal fouls.
Dean Smith still has David Popson over there to come off the bench. If either one of them get in serious foul trouble, have to foul out.
Johnny Dawkins stops his dribble, whips it outside of Tommy Amaker. Junior Amaker against freshman Lebo. Berry side arming to Dawkins, double team by the Carolina back line. Amaker left open, he spins with a jump shot and drills it in, and a whistle. Boy, it gets real quiet on that floor when they blow a whistle in a situation like that.
And that's a foul on Brad Doherty as well. So you're going to get the ball out of bounds underneath for Duke. So here we are. A few minutes ago, we said it's a game of spurts. Very easily, this could be an 8-point game after this possession with 13 minutes to play.
Who's the foul going to be against this time? They got Steve Hale. Well, Doherty got his first a moment ago. Hale has been charged with his second. The Tar Heels led by 16. The lead now stands at 10, and Duke gets the ball back.
Now, the problem with this lineup right now for Duke, with Allery out of it, they have not looked inside to Danny Ferry very much. So now they're going to have to look for something from the perimeter or a driving move to the basket.
Tommy Amaker, he's starting to take matters into his own hands. He did not have a point at the halftime break. He has scored 7.
Well, Tommy Amaker is truly an unselfish player for this ball club. He sacrifices his own stats for the success of the team.
64-56 North Carolina as the Blue Devils have run off 8 in a row.
It's a different ball club out there defensively. Coach K will be upset with that foul by Billy King.
Well, he's got to be upset with the fact that it's King's 4th.
Well, still, at this point, his 3rd foul. He's got to get out there and put that defensive pressure. Now you see the Carolina team is having a tougher time to get the ball into the area they'd like to, okay, to get their offense going.
Here's Hale. No shot there. He'll play it to Kenny Smith. Now to Lebo. Down low, and Billis. That time, Billis gets Brad Doherty.
That was just great ball movement coming from the weak side. That was a bang-bang right inside to Doherty. Wasn't committed, he had a dunk.
Mike Krzyzewski getting 2 of his horses back in there. They're named Mark Gallery and David Henderson. Jay Billis will sit down along with Tommy Amaker. So 2 double-figure scorers back in the lineup for the Duke Blue Devils, and Kenny Smith will look to get it inbounds. And he loops it out to Doherty. Steve Hale. Now Warren Martin.
There's a mismatch on the weak side. There it is.
It off to Lebo, wide open. Rebound inside by Billy King. Well, that wide open jump shot, sometimes one of the toughest in the world to make. That driving layup fails to go for Henderson.
Just because of Warren Martin's presence, that shot was missed.
North Carolina leading by 8 points. 12:20 remaining in the game. Doherty draws the crowd. Hale, Lebo, Tar Heels always seem to find that open man. That time it's Kenny Smith, no go. Danny Ferry up for the Duke Ball Club.
Carolina's got to start getting the ball back inside at the offensive end of the court. Have a little more patience at the offensive end.
Tar Heels led by 5 at the break, 48-43. They extended it to 16. Henderson, he was fouled, and he'll be shooting a couple of shots. So Duke could now cut it to 5 points, trailing as they are 64-57.
You know, one thing, if you're in a position having to play Johnny Dawkins, you almost have to be thinking defense while you're at the offensive end of the court. When that shot goes up, you better be ready to find him on the court and be ready to pick him up as soon as that shot is released by your team. Because he gets the ball in the open court, you're in serious trouble.
It is 64-56. We were looking at the scoreboard, one of the 4 that they have around this facility, and they had 57 points up there for Duke, but they've now corrected that, and they can put it back to 57 as Henderson scores on 1 for 2 shooting from the line. 11:50 remaining. Hale baseline drives, puts it up, got the shot. They'll count the basket, and they'll call a block on Johnny Dawkins.
They might think about renaming this place to the Steve Hale building because of this. Watch this move to the baseline. sees the man coming over to draw the charge, fades away, is able to pick up the foul and knock it in. Steve Hale is just doing it at both ends of the court. If there's a loose ball, he's picking it up. He's gotten his hand on several loose balls, created some easy opportunities for his teammates. You know, someone questioned my mentioning that a few games ago that Steve Hale would not be able to go to medical school for a few years because he's going to be in pro basketball. And they said, "Are you kidding?" And I said, "No," and I think they'll change their mind after today. Fine move by Henderson to the hoop.
David Henderson answers at the other end. All Hale has done is go 9 for 10 from the floor. His previous single game high this season, 15. He has scored 24 today. Again, alluding to the fact that this young man out of Jenks, Oklahoma, has been a big game player. Oh, yeah. So is that man. 16 for Doherty, and the Tar Heels go back up by 10, 69-59.
I assure you that there are pro scouts around the country that are drooling after watching Brad Doherty make that move.
Banging inside between Steve Hale and David Henderson, and Steve Hale gets his third personal foul out of it. That is 16 fouls now against the Tar Heels, who lead by 10 with just over 11 to go.
Well, Henderson will look to post up anytime he finds himself with Steve Hale, because he has that size advantage, as well as he has the ability, if he gets the ball in there, to jump over him. So Steve Hale must look to deny the basketball to him and make sure he has the good weak side help.
Dean Smith will bring Kevin Madden back, and he'll give Hale a breather. And boy, I'll tell you, they will applaud his efforts today. No doubt he'll be back to garner more. On the line is Henderson.
Steve Hale looks like he's hurt over there on the bench. And as I mentioned in the Maryland game, he and Derek Lewis collided. He did not practice this week. He had some problems with his chest and rib area.
An 11-point day for David Henderson. And his 12th point. And the Blue Devils trail 69-61. Kenny Smith double teamed in the backcourt, and Amaker has the ball. They leave him open. He'll put it up and in, and here comes Duke. 9 second-half points for the junior from Falls Church, Virginia. That steal and resulting bucket gets Duke to within 6 and results in a Dean Smith timeout. 10:49, time remaining. Carolina leads a comeback Duke club 69-63. They have cut 10 points off that deficit with 10:49 to go, 69-63, as we take a look graphically at what kind of foul trouble these young men are in.
Marty, you've seen teams have spurts in this game, but there's one area that's given both teams their spurts: the defensive end of the court. Been able to create those turnovers, getting some easy baskets at the other end.
Brad Doherty getting some Warren Martin heavyweight defense, and the ball batted away, and there's Amaker again. They put pressure on Martin to force a bad pass. Henderson shooting to cut it to 4. Ferry kept the rebound alive, but Warren Martin apparently was pushing off and trying to get position, and he has number 4.
Here's Henderson with the shot. Oh, I see. Yes, he does push off Billy King. At first, I couldn't tell. It looked like they called the foul on Ferry, and then all of a sudden on Martin, and we could see on the replay an obvious foul.
So Duke will be in the bonus for the final 10.5 minutes of the game.
Key. Carolina is going to see the full court defensive pressure. They're going to have to get it in. All right, here, they're going to have to look to attack it if there's good defensive pressure to get the easy hoop.
The miss by Danny Ferry, the rebound by North Carolina. Kevin Madden is back in the Tar Heel lineup, and Steve Hale, rested, is going to come back to North Carolina. There's a King foul, and that's his 4th. Shooting will be Doherty, and Hale will replace who? Kevin Madden.
Excellent pass by Martin. Now, if Doherty had gone to lay this up, Billy King would have blocked it, but he went to power the basketball to the hoop. Now, that's the 4th foul, I think, on King, isn't it?
Yes. A note on the afternoon that Steve Hale is enjoying as you look at Billy King's play. His previous career scoring high, 23. That was against Florida State in January of last year. He has knocked home 24 today. Doherty was 16, first trek to the line.
Well, from this point on, both teams will be in the one-on-one situation.
Doherty with 17 points and 7 rebounds. And there's a up by Kenny Smith. Everybody stood around. Nobody made a break for the ball. Smith said, I'll pick it up. And now North Carolina can take a 9-point lead if Doherty hits this one. He did.
He hit that in a lot of traffic. At that point, Duke had triple teamed him, but he had that height advantage, just turned around, and you saw that beautiful touch on that shot.
He scored 19. So Duke has made a run at the Tar Heels, but North Carolina now trying to wrest the momentum away, leading 72-63 with 9:45 to go. Tommy Amaker gives it back to Johnny Dawkins behind a screen sent by Allery.
Carolina was awfully lucky right there with Dawkins with an open jump shot. He probably was so shocked to find himself with not having at least one player against him. There he is, wide open for the jump shot. That's a shot he'd love to have back.
That turnover charged to Kenny Smith, 17 for North Carolina. And Jay Billis wastes no time at all as he takes it hard to the basket.
Well, Jay Billis saw that opening and just flashed down the lane, was able to receive the pass for the layup.
72-65. Kenny Smith, Jeff Lebo, Brad Doherty, Warren Martin, and Steve Hale for North Carolina. Martin handles the basketball. He needs some help and finds it in Lebo. Freshman from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, trying to weave his magic. He got the ball to Martin. It went out of bounds, and both officials agree it went off Mark Allery.
Well, Carolina's showing good patience there at the offensive end of the court because they're looking to pound the ball inside as much as they possibly can to either Brad Doherty or to Warren Martin.
Back in the lineup for the Tar Heels, freshman Kevin Madden. Hale gets the ball. Turns, looks to Martin, loops it inside. He banks it up too strong. They keep it alive. Allery had it, lost it. It's Madden, back to Doherty. In and out, no good. Charge on Brad Doherty. Foul number 2 on the North Carolina high-rise as he missed a bank shot.
Good hustle by Madden. Dishes off to Doherty, taking the ball to the hole. Offensive foul.
So Doherty with only 2. Duke is back. Johnny Dawkins with his club trailing by 7. Kicks it back outside to Tommy Amaker. Plenty of time on that shot clock, 28 seconds. Billis falls down, traveling.
I don't think he lost possession of the ball there. You know, he did fall, but he was able to maintain that pivot foot and come up dribbling with the basketball.
That's probably exactly what Mike Krzyzewski is saying across the way to Paul Hausman. On the way with the ball, Kenny Smith, off the ball, contact. Tom Crane accusingly says something to Jay Billis. That's who the Duke foul was called on.
That's just a silly foul by Jay Billis. Martin was just running down the court, and he just stuck an elbow out and drew the foul. And here we have Martin going to the foul line. Carolina did not have to work to try and get 2 points this time down the court.
Well, Billis discusses it with one official as Warren Martin gets the ball for the first shot. Martin with his 7, and North Carolina leads by 8, 73-65. Martin's also come up with 4 big rebounds, and now Jeff Lebo will take over for Kevin Madden. A lot of people consider that young man the best high school player in the nation last year, and those who didn't opted for Danny Ferry of Duke.
That's exactly right. And, just great players. The one big thing I think they have is they have excellent court savvy. They have good instincts for the basketball game.
2 hits by Martin. 74 North Carolina, 65 Duke. Still better than 8 minutes remaining. Pass inside, Allery, Henderson, bank it up and in. David Henderson.
So what Duke is doing right now is they're spreading the court and just looking to go inside to Henderson any chance they have.
Hale's pass, not enough on it. Allery was there for the intercept.
Big time down the court here for Duke.
There it is. Just like you diagram it. Amaker to Johnny Dawkins.
Well, the problem right there is Brad Davis did not communicate with his teammate Kenny Smith to let him know there was a back screen, and that enabled an excellent pass and Dawkins with the dunk.
It is 5 now to separate the 2 clubs. Doherty comes out on the wing to get the ball. He looks. He finds Kenny Smith.
just great pass and good movement without the basketball.
76-69. Doherty faked the pass outside to Hale. Held up at the last second. Saw Smith breaking down the lane and got it to him. Dawkins, no. Warren Martin, yes. And up the floor it goes to Smith. Cross court to Hale. He shoots on the run. Doherty keeps it alive. Jumper up. Rebounded by Allery of Duke.
Let's see if it'll be interesting to see if Duke goes inside again to try and get it to Henderson. Nope.
Allery shoots and misses. Kenny Smith had it knocked away, but picked up by Martin. Right now, Duke getting one shot.
Right, the quick shots. Last 2 times, Dawkins forced the shot a little bit, and there Allery forcing it.
We got the 5-second count that went against Kenny Smith. So Duke will get the ball back on the Carolina turnover.
What happened was Carolina screened down for the guard to pop out, and Duke switched out and denied the basketball, and Kenny Smith did not have anyone to pass the ball to and got stuck for the 5-second call. Excellent defense by Duke.
Fresh bodies up front for the Tar Heels. You're looking at Dave Popson. He's been joined out there by Joe Wolf as Brad Doherty and Warren Martin go to the North Carolina bench. Keep in mind now, Wolf is playing with 4 personal fouls. 76-69 Tar Heels. Amaker from 2 weeks ago. Didn't get it to go. The ball slapped outside to him, and there's a foul, and if it's against Billy King, he's gone with 6:21 remaining.
That is his 5th.
So Billy King fouls out, and that's not going to help the Blue Devils' cause by any stretch of the imagination.
The reason they'll miss him so badly is he is such an outstanding defensive ball player, and Duke has got to put that good defensive pressure, so they'll miss him at the defensive end of the court. Every time Dawkins comes off a screen now, looking for the open shot, Carolina is just not going to allow him to beat them with a perimeter jump shot. You'll see he's looking at either 1 or 2 people coming running at him, forcing him to either take a tough shot or give the ball up.
Dave Popson quickly back to the North Carolina bench, and Brad Doherty quickly back on the floor. Steve Hale having the best game scoring-wise of his collegiate career, has 6 of 7 from the free throw line.
Joe Wolf's in there now, and he's got 4 fouls on himself too. But again, Carolina can go and bring Martin off the bench or David Popson to come in and fill his role.
78-69, the Tar Heels with a bit of breathing room. Their lead stands at 9 with 6:10 on the clock. Curry inside Henderson has it slapped away. Curry outmuscles Doherty, throws up a prayer, didn't get the bank. There's Lebo. And he throws it into the hands of Johnny Dawkins. He throws it into the hands of Kenny Smith.
I don't think anybody wants the ball.
Doesn't appear that they do. Hale wanted it. He gets it to Wolf. And it rolls off the other side to Dave Henderson.
Both cases at either end of the court, players were looking to draw the foul instead of just going up and shooting the ball and let whatever is going to happen, happen.
Dawkins, nice wraparound dribble. Too long. Lebo goes up the floor to Hale. He tries to beat Dawkins.
Oh, there was an example. Just getting the ball out, one-on-one situation, almost impossible to stop the offensive player in a one-on-one open court situation.
Impressive for Steve Hale with 28 points. Carolina by 11. Don't go away. Anthony Brenneman back at the Dean Smith Student Activities Center. The first of 2 regular season meetings between these ACC powers. And North Carolina leads Duke 80-69. Timeout situation favoring North Carolina. The Tar Heels with 3. Duke has 1 remaining.
Carolina going to a 3-2 zone, forcing Duke to beat it from the perimeter.
Henderson, Amaker. He puts it up with the right hand and snakes it through. Tommy Amaker has scored all 11 of his points here in the second half. 80-71. So Duke hoping for a big finish. Kenny Smith, Steve Hale, Warren Martin had it rejected, but on the other side, the ever-present Mr. Doherty.
Brad Doherty in the right place at the right time. Carolina is just going to look to zone it at this end of the court, use the clock to get the ball inside of the offensive end.
Henderson with a nice touch.
Now with this lineup in here, I would expect Duke to really look to force the pressure in the defensive end of the court, denying, looking to create the turnovers, because there's plenty of time for them to get back in this basketball game.
82-73 North Carolina. Warren Martin tried to shovel on the move. Not a very good pass by any means. And Alarie is there for the takeaway.
I wouldn't think that to be Warren Martin's strength.
I would hope not. Henderson throws it up and in. And he was fouled.
Well, here's the strong move by Henderson. Up for the shot. Tough with that type of angle to see if there was a foul. I'm sure the official was in perfect position to call the play.
There was a foul indeed, and it's number 4 against Steve Hale.
Well, Dean Smith now, what he's done, because of the foul shot, the dead ball is brought in the small lineup, because you know that Duke is going to come out with that good full court defensive pressure.
David Henderson lets fly. The completion of a three-point play that pulls the Blue Devils to within a half a dozen points, 82-76.
You know, Carolina gets up by a few, and you expect them. Good hustle by Tommy Amaker.
Equally good hustle by Kenny Smith to keep the ball in his team's possession. Now Joe Wolf forced to put it on the floor, finds it cutting Smith. He hit the driving layup, and Henderson got him.
That was an outstanding bounce pass to Joe Wolf. Again, I can't emphasize enough that more pressure on the basketball is needed. Nothing Henderson could do, looking to give a little help, but just reached out, picked up the ball. You must, if you're going to play a pressure defensive ball game, you must have pressure on the passer. There was a case where Joe Wolf just came off a little screen, no pressure, was able to see the whole court. Kenny Smith just moved now he's gotten an excellent pass from Brad Daugherty moving to the basket, and now Joe Wolf. So, you know, sometimes when you lose or you have a close ball game, it's very beneficial to a ball club, as we see the Carolina team, how they're handling that defensive pressure by Duke.
Well, Duke got a three-point play out of David Henderson. North Carolina comes down and immediately answers with a three-point play from Kenny Smith. And the lead goes back to 8, 85-77. Henderson weaving his magic, but lost the ball in open court, picked up by Amaker.
Interesting matchup. Joe Wolf is outplaying Amaker on the court.
Here's a jumper by Henderson, and he's a one-man offensive show at the moment for the Duke Blue Devils.
You're talking about a great player.
Right.
And Henderson, MVP of the NIT, strong move to the baseline, jump shot, bang, knocks it home. He's got the rhythm. Now the key to Henderson right now, he's playing under control. So many times I've watched him play, he'll penetrate a little too deep to the basket, force a tough shot. Here's Steve Hale.
He's fouled out, Billy. He's gone.
Well, now Carolina has got a tough situation, because obviously the game he has played so far, but now Duke can apply more defensive pressure. We're going to have Madden in there at the small forward position. Tougher matchup for the Carolina team, getting the ball down the court, more pressure and more responsibility on Kenny Smith's shoulders, because he's got the two small, Lebo a freshman, Madden a freshman.
It has been showtime for David Henderson in the second half. 16 of his 21 points. He could not get that to drop. And Duke now 14 of 19 from the free throw line. 85-78. Jeff Lebo is backing off the Tar Heel bench. Kevin Madden has also come back in. So Steve Hale fouls out when North Carolina leads by 7 and has the ball.
Carolina cannot stand still offensively, because if they do, this Duke pressure is going to hurt them. They must keep themselves moving.
Kenny Smith puts it to Jeff Lebo, now to Brad Daugherty. Alarie all over him.
10 seconds left on the 45-second clock.
Joe Wolf,
5 seconds.
Kenny Smith, somebody's got to put it up. Smith does. And Wolf got a hand on it, but the ball is to Johnny Dawkins. He tried to loop it to Alarie. And it'll go out of bounds, and it appeared to go off Wolf's foot.
Johnny Dawkins made a careless pass that Joe Wolf was able to pick off. and he just nonchalanted it a little bit and kicked the ball out of bounds. But then again, it could be those two fingers that are bothering him. He dislocated both pinkies last week.
Billy, the last time down the floor, was North Carolina purposely milking the clock?
Yes, they were trying to use the clock, get it down to 10, 15 seconds, but they still have to be looking inside when they get it down in that area. With 2:40 to play in this ball game.
Well, who's the foul going to be against? Grant Doherty. And the Tar Heel fans obviously do not like it. Number 3 on Doherty. Billy King, he's fouled out for the Duke Blue Devils. Steve Hale has gone for North Carolina.
Again, we mentioned that benches and both teams would be factors in this ball game. And we're seeing that now when you have two of your key players that are sitting on the bench and will not participate for the next 2:37 of this ball game. Again, we're going to see that good defensive pressure by Duke if Mallory's able to make the 2 foul shots.
North Carolina's gotten 23 points out of its bench, and the Duke Blue Devils have gotten a total of 14. Mallory shooting again, and Doherty rebounds.
And only 2 of those for Duke in the second half.
That's right, from Jay Billis. 85-79. The Tar Heel fans across the way come to their feet in unison.
Well, Carolina's spreading the court. They're going to use the clock.
Doherty plays to Wolf. Billis has him. Joe starts to drive. Now to Doherty. Back out front, Kevin Madden. He'll make his move on Curry and play to Lebo. So North Carolina making no pretense about it at all at this stage. As the clock gets toward the final 2 minutes to play, they work some time. Doherty has it knocked away. Picked up by Madden, and there's Lebo. He's in trouble as he throws it 5 seconds left. Smith, 3 on the shot clock. He puts up the jump shot. Rebounded by Wolf, and it goes back to 45.
That's a killer.
Sure is.
Played so hard defensively for 45 seconds, and Carolina comes up with the offensive rebound. Now they're going to have to play man-to-man for 1 minute and 30.
There's Doherty on the assist from Kenny Smith.
Well, Duke's got to come down, get a quick shot, pick them up, look to create the turnovers with only 1 minute and 30 to play.
87-79, minute 24 on the clock. Dawkins with that rainmaker. And Johnny Dawkins buries another basket from downtown. Duke trails by 6.
Plenty of time left. Just a turnover or someone misses a one-on-one situation. There's a lot of basketball left in this ball game.
No, Wolf won't put it up. He gives it back to Kenny Smith. What do we have here? Mark Gallery bumping, apparently, Kevin Madden. That's his 3rd foul.
Well, that's not a bad situation. Now you have a freshman on the foul line. He's a 70% foul shooter, but still, a minute left in the ball game. A game that could mean the difference, with giving Duke another chance to cut it to 4.
Kevin Madden will shoot it for North Carolina. The Tar Heels, 19 out of 22 from the free throw line. This is the first attempt today for freshman Madden.
It'll be interesting. I have a theory that I was thinking about this game, and the media puts a little more emphasis on this ball game. It's a long season for both of these teams. They both have short-range goals, obviously, to win this basketball game, but they have a long-range goal, and that's in March. That the loser might benefit more than the winner out of this basketball game. Why? Because as a coach, you evaluate that film, you're a little more critical and demanding of your team for the next few days in practice before you play again.
Warren Martin rejects Johnny Dawkins. Tommy Amaker saying there was a push-off.
Warren Martin coming over from the weak side. Boy, isn't it nice to have 2 7-footers in there that can block shots.
I guess. Here's Henderson. And he ran into Martin. And apparently Warren has been called for the personal foul. He had his hands up, apparently trying to draw a charge, and they call the blocking foul.
Strong move. He did move a little bit. He moved his body into Henderson. Good call by the official.
So Martin becomes the second Tar Heel to foul out. And that allows Duke to stop the clock with 55 seconds remaining. They're on the short end of that 89-81 score. These two clubs will match up again. over at Durham's Cameron Indoor Stadium in early March, 5 days before the Atlantic Coast Conference tournament begins in Greensboro. And neither coach has discounted the possibility, as Billy mentioned earlier today, that they could play 4 times. A 3rd time in the ACC tournament, and possibly a 4th time if both clubs are so fortunate to reach the Final Four. Second point of the game for David Henderson.
We'll see that defensive pressure right now. Picking up pressure on the ball, looking to deny, either getting the steal or looking for the foul.
89-83, Kenny Smith runs into double team defense from Duke. Doherty, and up the floor to Jeff Lebo.
Carolina does not need a shot now. They want to use as much of the time as possible.
Johnny Dawkins fouls Lebo, if for no other reason than stop the clock. A pretty good percentage foul. Lebo is a 68% free throw shooter. They figure that to be better as time progresses, but he'll be up there now.
There's the pressure. Doherty, see, didn't have the pressure there on the basketball. Was able to see the court and find Lebo. Now, that was a good foul by Dawkins because what he did was make it a one-on-one situation, reaching for the ball. But we all knew sitting here that he was going to commit that foul.
8-point for Lebo. 90-83. North Carolina not a whole lot of time to mull over the outcome of this game. They get on a plane at 5:30 this afternoon to fly to Milwaukee and play Marquette tomorrow afternoon. Up it goes to Kevin Madden. He will throw it cross court to Kenny Smith. Ball tipped away. Smith got it back and was fouled by Danny Ferry. That'll be another 1-and-1 for the Tar Heels. The next game for Duke will be equally as big as this one. And it again will be on the road Tuesday night down in Atlanta Zombie against Bobby Cremins' Georgia Tech ball club.
And then Bobby Cremins has got to come right to Chapel Hill on Saturday, but I don't envy his week.
No, that's pretty rough road.
But you can see, watching this game, why these two teams are, in my opinion, number 1 and 2 right now in the country, with Michigan losing because of the intensity. There's no quit. We saw a Duke team that was down 16 points, and with a break or two here, this could have been a 2 or 4 point ball game just a little while ago.
North Carolina's lead goes back to 10. The Tar Heels will be the only unbeaten team in the ACC and only one of 2 in the entire nation, Memphis State being the other. Amaker buries a jump shot, and Duke utilizes its final timeout. Timeout. We're live at the Student Activity Center here in Chapel Hill. 93 North Carolina, 85 Duke. We'll be back. A happy North Carolina crowd. Happy because only 22 seconds remain in a game that at the moment has the Tar Heels in front 93-85. Duke already on the floor with Allery, Dawkins, Henderson, Amaker, and Ferry. The Tar Heels have Kenny Smith, Kevin Madden, Jeff Lebo, Brad Doherty, and Joe Wolf.
We're going to see a lot of pressure defensively. Carolina will not look to shoot the basketball. They'll look to move the basketball, use as much of the clock as they possibly can.
Duke cannot stop the clock with another timeout. They use their last one. They can stop it with a foul, and that's what they do. Allery gets Lebo, and they'll go to the other end.
I tell you, it's great to watch Coach K. He's still working those officials. He still has belief and faith in his ball club, and if they can come down, if Lebo does miss the first end of the one-on-one and they come down, they hit a basket or a possible three-point play. If I'm not mistaken, it was a very unusual game against Carolina Duke at Carmichael, where Carolina scored 8 consecutive points in the last
16 seconds.
Last 16 seconds. So when these two teams compete against each other, anything can happen, and it usually does.
North Carolina's had an exceptional afternoon at the free throw line. They're now 26 for 29. That's better than 90%, or close to it. Here's Henderson. Contact as he put it up in heavyweight traffic. Doherty goes flat on his back. And he took the majority of the punishment and apparently was called for the foul. Ran a little bit slow coming up off the floor. And David Henderson will shoot them. He has been a frequent visitor to that sector of the floor in this game, having shot 10 free throws. Joe Wolf, they call the foul on. That's his 5th. He's out of here. Curtis Hunter will replace him.
Well, it was just a great basketball game. It's the type of game neither team made major adjustments. The only thing we saw in the way of an adjustment was Carolina starting Warren Martin at the forward position today instead of Popson. Other than that, they came out and they played their game. I still believe that when these two teams play again, could be a different story. I thought that Duke, when they did apply that great defensive pressure, did give Carolina some problems. I thought Carolina did a good job as well to looking for the back doors, looking to move the ball against that type of pressure that Duke did apply.
Well, they applied pressure that time that caused Carolina to turn it over. Kevin Madden and Danny Ferry went for the ball, and Madden fouled the freshman from Bowie, Maryland, and DeMatha High School.
Really, all Carolina has to do is get this basketball inbound after the foul shot, maybe use a few seconds. If someone can hit a foul shot at the other end, or even if they miss it, Duke's got to come the length of the court to score. The clock does not stop after the ball goes through the basket. If they do, then the game should be over.
They are the first points for Danny Ferry, and North Carolina signals for a timeout with 14 seconds remaining, and the Tar Heels leading 95-88. Well, Billy, you know, we both chatted with Dean Smith. We visited with Mike Krzyzewski. The two coaches played down this game. What effect is it going to have on Duke, if any at all? They've got a couple of days to prepare for that tough Georgia Tech team on Tuesday night, while, of course, the Tar Heels board that plane later on today and go to Marquette and Milwaukee for a game tomorrow.
No matter what any coach will say, when you're winning the way Duke, Carolina have been winning, it's very easy for complacency to set in. Players come out, they work their tails off in practice, but still, it's not the same after a loss. They come out, their concentration level just raises a notch or two higher. And I wouldn't want to be playing against Duke and beat Georgia Tech, because I think this ball club will come out, their concentration level, not that it wasn't great today, but it'll even be better, because, you know, at times as players and coaches, you just kind of sit back and you relax a little too much. Now they're going to have that little shot of adrenaline, and they'll be ready for quite a while. Carolina, I had asked both coaches earlier, have you seen this complacency setting in with your ball clubs, or do you feel it yourself having such great success so far this year? Both of them had said no. I have coached teams that have had success in fairly long winning streaks. You could feel it starting to come. And, you know, you almost wish for a loss because you feel that a loss can be beneficial in the long run to you as a ball club.
Only 14 ticks of the clock remaining. North Carolina ball. Doherty looking to inbounds. He's got a man down the floor and didn't see him soon enough. And Carolina did not get the ball inbounds in time. It goes to Duke.
Well, what happened is Brad Doherty got himself caught underneath the basket and couldn't make that long outlet pass for potentially an easy 2 points. Maybe I was talking a little too much earlier.
How about this? Amaker throws one up and in, but they cannot stop the clock with a timeout. That's a problem Duke has now. Ferry took a shot at Kenny Smith. He didn't get him, but David Henderson did. Only 6 seconds to go, and shooting will be Kenny Smith. The only recourse that Duke had was following the great shot by Tommy Amaker to foul and stop the clock. There's a shot.
There's the shot. What a play. That young man reminds me so much of Maurice Cheeks, because he does anything that he can to try to help the team be successful. If it means he doesn't have to take a shot throughout the basketball game, he'll do that. And we saw him come out in the second half and realize that he had to help at the offensive end of the court, and he has added that dimension to the Duke offense.
Johnny Dawkins lays it in, and the horn sounds, and it is all over. Here at the Dean Smith Student Activities Center in Chapel Hill, Duke battling to the very final second of play, and they come back to make the final deficit only 3. North Carolina winning it